I've interviewed a bunch of, they call them whales, these guys who gamble really, really big. Terry Watanabe is the one I just also interviewed just recently, who lost, I think, almost $500 million gambling. 500 million, lost it.
What's the payoff for them? Do they eventually think they'll get money, or is it a mental high?
Well, it's like a drug addiction. It's like a sex addiction. It's like a whatever addiction.
Wow.
It's the same kind of thing. They get addicted to that adrenaline, even though they know that Vegas is set up for you to lose. He lost Terry Watanabe. He was worth 500 million. He gave away a lot of it, but he also lost 350 million gambling at Caesar's Palace. After the first million, you'd think like, hey, this isn't working out.
Let's back up and rethink.
It's time. I got to rethink this. While they still have some money left, but he kept going. And then another, what was his name? Archie Karras, who was I think he just passed away recently. He was a Greek whale gambler. He came to Vegas with like $2,000 or something like that, and turned it into 40 million. Something like that. I might have the numbers wrong, but and they all you can see the toll that the adrenaline takes on them, their health.
It does.
They're not Matt, who's young, but the other two guys, their health is just decimated by the.
Mine is too, from living on adrenaline rushes.
So
the bad adrenaline rushes.
Let's talk about your life. So you grew up where?
Kansas, middle of nowhere, Kansas. Between Kansas and Alaska. I moved a lot because my father drilled oil in Alaska. So I never really stayed any one place very long. So I never had a teacher that became a friend, or a neighbor's mom that became a friend, or anything, because I just moved all the time. I think the last time that I moved, I was in the 8th grade, and I moved from Alaska back to middle of nowhere, Kansas. So through all of that, I have sexual abuse that my father was my perpetrator, that started when I was 6 or 7. That's my first memory of full penetration. So from that point on, your body lives on adrenaline.
What age did this
6 to 7. 6 or 7.
You're having intercourse at...
Full penetration and my father was my perpetrator. And my parents were married. And if you ask the community about my dad, they would tell you, my dad's a great guy. But most perpetrators are great guys.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
That's exactly right. That's how they infiltrate Little League.
They're charming.
And very.
Like, I've interviewed a bunch of sexual predators, pedophiles, who they are all the most charming, nicest guys ever. You just instantly like them. They're easy to like. They're friendly. They're nice.
They're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
So when you're but my father was also physically and verbally and mentally abusive. So there was the sexual abuse, and then there was all the other kinds of abuses, and you never knew. Every day you were walking on eggshells. So plus I'm carrying these secrets that I'm not old enough to be carrying, and now I'm in survival mode all the time. And just it compounded as I grew older and got into junior high and then got into high school, and I flailed in high school because I couldn't.
What years? So it started at 6?
I graduated in 79, so I grew up in the 70s.
And it went on from age 6 till
I got married when I was in high school.
You're kidding.
My senior year of high school, I got married. And you know what? Victims of trauma or abuse, we're surviving by one plan. We have a plan and then another one and another one, hoping for a way out. And, my life is filled with a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And as an adult, I can look back and think, oh my gosh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda. But I have to tell myself, those decisions that I made with a 6 and 7 and 8 and 13-year-old brain. And I can't judge myself now, today, although I do. No one judges me any harshlier than I judge myself. Because it was all I had. And there's this saying, I did the best I could with what I had at the time, and I truly did. And it was to stay alive, and sometimes even that was more. Just staying alive became too much.
My dad was giving me a hard time about not watching the news enough, so naturally I gave him a hard time right back. I told him most of what we're shown is designed to alarm us, not inform us. And that's why I asked Ground News to sponsor my channel. Ground News is an app and website that helps you form your own opinions by showing you every article published on any story worldwide. My favorite part is how it breaks down each news source's political bias, reliability, and even ownership, so you can actually see where your information is coming from. Let me show you how it works. Here's a story about the Palisades fires in Los Angeles. Ground News shows that 13 outlets covered it, most leaning slightly right. You can instantly see who owns these outlets, how reliable they are, and how differently they frame the same event. Some headlines focus on firefighter decisions, others on weather and risk. Same story told through two very different lenses. I also like their blind spot feed. It highlights stories that are covered heavily by one side but ignored by the other. It's a simple way to step outside your own echo chamber. So if you're tired of being told what to think, check them out at ground.news/SWU. You'll get 40% off their Vantage plan, and by subscribing or even gifting it to someone, you're supporting independent thinking and this channel directly. Again, that's ground.news/SWU. Thank you for watching.
So I have a suicide attempt and
Drugs?
a failed marriage. No drugs.
Good for you.
Only because I'm a control freak and I don't know how I would be. Same with alcohol.
Yeah.
So I keep it really tight. My lid is screwed on really tight because I'm scared of losing control. So not that I didn't have other things that were probably not good, but the toll that's taken on my body, the physical toll, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And let me tell you, even though my abuse is over and it's long over, I still have panic attacks. I still have nightmares. My thyroid doesn't work. My kidney doesn't work. I take about 25 pills a day just to try to digest food. Right now I have mycotoxin poisoning 600 times the amount in my body, and nobody knows why. I have multiple doctors. I have dietitians. I have a trainer. I do all the things, but my body is just, that's what adrenaline does. It just breaks down your body. And
So for you, the adrenaline was from the fear of what was going to happen
Right.
with your dad?
Right.
And how often was this going on?
Weekly, sometimes multiple times a week.
And your mom didn't know?
She didn't. My mom worked outside the home. There came a time when I told my mom, when I was 35, I went to lunch with a friend, and I was married, and I had 3 children, and I had the perfect, I could put on the perfect smile and be whoever you need me to be. Just tell me, and I'll be that. If you want me to be the PTA mom, just tell me. But there was no Sherrie. I'll just be who you need me to be. And I went to lunch with a friend, and out of the blue, my friend said, "Sherrie, I know about your dad." And I was absolutely shocked. And to this day, I don't know how she knew. Her name's Dawn. I don't know how Dawn knew. And so we talked about it, and we made a pact that we would never talk about it again. And I thought when I left that day that I could put all those pieces back inside that Jack-in-the-Box. But the problem was the lid wouldn't go back on. And all those pieces that had been in the back of my brain are now just scattered everywhere, and I'm trying to grab them before people can see them and put them all back in.
Just from a conversation?
Just from a conversation. And so I decided I had to talk to somebody, and so I decided to talk to my sister. She's 2 years younger than I. And so we called my mom, and we told my mom, and my mom confronted my father, and my father said, "It's true. Everything she's telling you is true." And I was elated because I had expectations
Your dad admitted it?
Yes. And I thought my mom would leave, and I thought that a relationship would be rebuilt with my mom that had been fractured. And she did leave. And then the next day she called me and said, "I just want you to know I talked to your dad, and he said he's sorry, and I'm going home." And so they stayed married until he died, I don't know, 10 or 12 years
It's
ago.
amazing what men get away with. It really is. It's horrifying.
It's, I have people say, "Why didn't you tell someone?" Well, okay, we don't talk about sexual abuse now. We dang sure weren't talking about it in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I I have complex PTSD, and I forgot what I was going to tell you, and that happens a lot, but I usually can circle back. I try to educate people on how a groomer works, how a pedophile works, and they're very, very good at what they do, and they're very, very good at keeping their victim tiny and quiet and small. And there are tapes that still play in my head, and I'm 64 years old, I'm old. On this side of my brain, I can hear my father telling me what would happen if I tell someone. My mother would cry, and that would be my fault. My parents would get a divorce, and that would be my fault. My father would go to jail, and that would be my fault. My siblings and I would go to foster care, and that would be my fault. We'd be separated, and that would be my fault. People in the community would talk bad about my father, and that would be my fault. Every single fallout from my father's actions were her fault. 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. So that was.
Were your siblings subjected to this?
To the physical and the mental and the emotional and all of that went on in our home.
But not the sexual?
And the walking on eggshells. So there's all of that that's going to happen if I tell someone. And then on this side of my brain, my perpetrator, which is typical for a perpetrator, told me every day, very often, who I am. So I know what's going to happen if I tell someone, and I know who I am because I'm told every single day. I am stupid, I am ugly, I am fat, I am dumb, I am worthless, and I will never amount to anything. And the very best I can ever hope for in my life is to be really good at a blowjob, because that's how I can make a living. So I know what's going to happen, and I know who I am. And that's how a perpetrator works. Who would believe me? Who would believe 6 or 7 or 8? Everyone knew my dad. Everyone loved my dad. He was a great guy. So there's no way out. There's truly no way out when you're a kid.
So your dad admitted it at what age was he?
I was 35.
So he was probably.
So he was 58, 59. My statute of limitations was up. There was nothing I could do.
Nothing.
Nothing. Mm-mm. They're changing that. We're working on that. Some places are putting your statute of limitations from your first memory, because so many people have repressed memories, or from when you first cried out, which in my case would have been 35, which sounds really old, but the average age for an incest survivor to tell their story or to cry out for the first time is 56. So we live 56 years carrying this guilt, shame, and humiliation that isn't ours to carry. So in some ways, I'm lucky. I got from the age of 35 to 56, I was able to get those years and start my healing journey and get to my mental health, which was so bad, to work on that a lot. So for that, I'm thankful. And I floundered so much with my mental health. And it took a long time, and it took a lot of therapy, and it cost a lot of money. And you're paying for something that I didn't do, but I'm the one that has to pay to pick up the pieces. I did talk therapy. I did years of talk therapy. And then when I was 50 years old, my marriage to my children's father did not survive the fallout from being public with my abuse and then the decline of my mental health. But when I was 50, I had remarried to a guy that thinks I hung the moon. Don't know why. He's a great guy. I was living in a condo on the beach in Corpus Christi, Texas. And Gary, his name's Gary, he had taken a job there, and we had moved from Kansas City. And he was doing great at his job and loving his job. I had spent my life, my career in the medical field, and I couldn't find a job in Corpus Christi because I'm not bilingual. So my mental health started really floundering. But I'm very good, and I kept it from Gary because I didn't want him to worry about me. And then I just reached a point where there were things worse than dying, and living for me had become worse than dying. I wasn't mad. I wasn't sad. I was just tired. I was tired for clawing and scratching for every day of my life. My abuse from my father stopped when I was 17. I'm married to the love of my life, living on the beach, and I was 50 years old and bought a cemetery plot and wrote my obituary, laid out the clothes I wanted to be buried in. I knew Gary would leave at 7:45 to go to work, and he'd be home at 12:15 for lunch. I knew the time frame, and I just was tired. I just was done fighting, and I didn't have any fight left. So that obviously didn't work, that attempt. But after a few days, I was able to tell Gary, and I knew he was going to be really mad at himself that he had missed that somewhere. But, listen, I'm an Academy Award-winning actress. I can cover anything up. It's all I've done all my life. So I started in EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Which is really effective.
It's very, very good, and it completely changed my world. Sometimes I speak at suicide conferences, and I have people say to me, "Didn't you think of your husband?" Of course I did. And I believed, now listen, if you're in your kitchen floor trying to take your life, you're not thinking with your right brain. But what I believed to be the truth at that point was that he'd be sad for a minute, like a hot minute, but then, and it was the but then he'll find someone that can love the way that he loves and can be the partner and wife to the kind of husband that he is, and he'll be better off. And I believed that.
Was it difficult for you, given all your trauma and all the damage from that, to accept somebody that was as kind and loving as he is?
Oh, very. And his father, my father-in-law, it was a very long time before I learned to accept love and compassion from a father figure. I didn't know how to do that. And we've come a long way, and my father-in-law laughs, and they're a very, Gary's parents are truly Ward and June Cleaver. He grew up in an idyllic childhood, and the first time I met his dad, he tried to hug me, and I put my hand out to just shake his hand, and that was all I could do. But he's been so patient and so kind and so gentle that now I can receive the love, that kind of fatherly love, and know that it's safe, and that him hugging me is okay. And it's been, not only did I get this amazing husband, but I have this amazing father-in-law that's taught me how to receive, how a father loves, how a dad loves, instead of the way that I grew up.
Were you compartmentalizing your life? A lot of people who have been through trauma like this compartmentalize. I
have had a full recall forever. So, and I still do. It's the more that I do therapy, the more that I did EMDR, and now I travel, and now I talk about it all the time, and that's helped. It's not so front. I don't think about it all the time, even though I'm talking about it all the time. I don't dwell on those things. I do what I have to do when I'm talking about it, and then I can put it away. Now, there are still lots of things that trigger me, or if I'll touch something that reminds me of, there's a leather that occasionally I'll touch that was in my father had a truck that had a bench seat, and every now and then, if I'll touch something that feels like that, or I'll get a whiff of cologne that maybe he wore, those kind of things, those kind of sensual things, those will take me back. But I'm getting better at putting that part behind me and just living for today. And now I get to travel. Now I take all of this mess that has been. And about 8 years ago, I started speaking to just a little bitty people to help them understand sexual abuse. And then it kind of grew and grew. And I had a chief of police in Georgia ask me to come and educate his police officers, which I thought was crazy because I didn't even get to go to college. I know who I am. I'm dumb, stupid, fat, ugly. I know all these things. So I worked up a little 4-hour class, and I thought I would fall flat on my face, because I am not law enforcement. I'm just a civilian, just a girl with a sappy story. So that was received very well. And then, so I worked with him for a little bit. And then 2 years ago, I'm getting ready to start my third year. 2 years ago, I accidentally collided with my friend Kevin Donaldson on his podcast. And he has started working with me. Retired New Jersey law enforcement.
Kevin's awesome.
He's such a great guy. Survivor of child sexual assault. And then me, long-term survivor of child sexual assault and various sex crimes. And so together we have this 8-hour class, and we get to travel all over and teach this 8-hour class to law enforcement. It's very interactive. It's very energetic. It's not like anything else that's out there, so I'm told. And it's so well received. We got to do the New York Attorney General's office just a couple of months ago. And I think, what's a girl like me doing in the New York Attorney General's office, teaching a huge class full of brass? Like, I should probably be intimidated, but I'm not smart enough to be intimidated. I'm just excited. And I have law enforcement tell me all the time, Sherrie, every law enforcement officer in the United States needs to hear you. You make me think of every sexual assault case I worked and realize how badly I worked it, how I did everything wrong. And that's it's not all for nothing now, because I have this grandiose purpose that I can see where I'm supposed to be. And I get to work with Kevin, and he brings this really crazy dynamic to it. And, you know, the statistics for females is about 1 in 4 women are sexually abused. Statistics for males, the statistics are skewed because most people don't report, but males run anywhere from 1 to 8 to 1 to 14. But females don't talk about it. Males really don't talk about it. And Kevin tells them his story, and he reaches people I can never reach because he's reaching as you know, he's a very macho, muscle-bound guy, and he bears his soul. And so together, we have this class, and we get to go to these. The last place we were was Joplin, Missouri, and had a guy come up and give me his card, and he said, "I work for Homeland Security. Would you come work for me?" And I thought, what is wrong with you people? What? No, I can't do that. So I've had the honor of speaking at the National Sheriff's Association, and just everywhere I go is my favorite place. And they're all amazing. Everybody that's working, every law enforcement officer that's doing this and trying to make the world a better place. And according to the FBI, the average law enforcement officer, from the time he starts the academy until the time he hangs up his belt, 25 years, whatever that may be, the number of hours of training they get in sexual assault is 2. 2. Kevin and I teach an 8-hour class. And actually, it really needs to be 2 days because we have a lot of stuff to share. But, and that's not on law. That's not their fault. That's just the system. That's just the way it is. They get 2 hours, and then we hand them our most vulnerable population and say, here you go, fix this. So the fact that we get to go in and really dig down deep into what's happening and why victims of trauma react differently than victims of other crimes, and explain that, because we've both been victims of trauma and we understand trauma and we understand how your brain works and how it doesn't work. And we understand what law enforcement's looking for, but we can't give you that because we're victims of trauma.
What are you hoping to change?
I would love it if every academy, let's just start with the academies, if every academy had to have a class, not a 1-hour video class, which I know a lot of them do, had to have a class on how to work with victims of sex crimes. Start there. Don't wait until they've been in their career 20 years and then realize they've been doing it wrong or they could have done it better or a different way. Give them the tools that they need to go. But we also hit mental health because Kevin's struggled with his mental health. I have had horrific mental health. So we pull that in as well because what law enforcement officers see day in and day out should break them. Often does in many cases. So, when you can take the horrific parts of your life and you can't change them, but you can find something, there's somehow something good can come out of such a mess that you've lived your life in, and you've been in darkness this whole time and think you have absolutely nothing to offer the world, that no one wants to hear you speak. I had to learn how to communicate when I was an adult because in our home, no one wanted to hear my voice. No one asked my opinion. You just stayed quiet and you stayed tiny and you stayed small and you hoped to stay out of the line of fire. So learning to even communicate was difficult. I can remember I hadn't been married to Gary very long and we lived in Kansas City, and one morning he said, "Hey, Sherrie, I'm going to make you breakfast. How do you like your eggs?" And I said, well, how do you like yours? Which is a typical trauma response. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, I like mine scrambled, but I'd like to make yours however you like them. How do you like yours?" And I remember I just sat down on the couch and started crying. And he came over and he said, What did I do? What's wrong? And I said, "No one's ever asked me how I like my eggs. No one. I don't know. I just eat them the way they were served to me." So something as simple as that. A lot of times, victim of trauma, we've never been given that choice. We don't know. So it becomes so elementary trying to catch up and not be stuck in that 6 and 7 and 8 and 9-year-old brain and try to regroup and catch all those years that you missed and become this adult now who didn't ever really get a chance to become an adult, was just plunged in to being a sex object isn't the right word, used by someone else for their pleasure, no matter what the ramifications were that it did to you and how it affected and stunted the victims, which I don't consider myself a victim, but the victim's growth and potential and personality and all those things. Because I will tell you, I still hang up on what would I have been? What could I have been? I don't know. Maybe I would have cured cancer. Maybe I'd have been the first woman on the moon. I don't know. I'll never know what I could have been. I floundered in school. I did terrible. I couldn't make friendships. My social skills were awful because I couldn't take anybody to my house. I mean, I couldn't bring a girlfriend to my house. I didn't know what my father would do. So every aspect of my growth was stunted. My mental growth, my social skills, my vocab, every aspect across the board. Now, I can talk nonstop now, so people have a hard time believing that I had a difficult time communicating, but I promise I did. I'm just getting my voice back, and boy, am I going to use it. And I'm just doing what I love now.
It's wonderful. So. It's wonderful that you've been able to turn it into something positive and helpful.
And, I have people tell me I'm an advocate. I'm not an advocate. I'm a hope dealer, because there's always hope. Always. The sun is always going to rise. And I know how dark it looks because I've been there. I've been in my kitchen floor trying to take my life because I thought I had nothing to offer. No one would miss me. And I have kids that would have been devastated. I have grandbabies that I wouldn't have been able to watch grow up. And I have friendships that would have never been formed. But, mental health is brutal. When your mental health is bad, it's brutal. You can't see the light and it's just dark and there's no way out.
What was your relationship like with your father after he admitted it?
There wasn't one.
There wasn't one?
No, very superficial. Just holidays, if I had to be around, and then avoidance. If I had to be in the same place and I could avoid and sidestep, but no, it was not good. And I have people ask me, what'd you feel like when he died? I didn't feel anything. I wasn't mad or sad or glad. It was truly like if I opened up the newspaper and read through the obituaries and, I'm sorry somebody died, but That was all there was. There was nothing.
What would you say is the most important thing you've learned after all of this that you've been through?
Oh gosh, I have learned so much. You're not the label. I'm not the label that was put on me for so many years. My default, if something goes wrong, is I default right back to, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. I'm such a dumbass. But that's my default setting, and I go right back to that. So learning to not take those labels that were put on me for so many years at such a young age, and I believed them. I believed the things that were said that were told to me. So that's been really important, to know that I can let go of those labels. And, I have Kevin and I writing a book. I'm too stupid to write a book. That's my first, when he said, hey, Sherrie, let's write a book, my first response was, oh my gosh, I'm too stupid. I can't do that. I'm too dumb. Because that's where my brain defaults to.
It's amazing how sexual abuse has these weird impacts on a person as they age, as they get older.
It never goes away. I have people say to me. But it makes you
feel like you're not capable of doing great things.
Oh, no, absolutely. I have people say to me, are you still talking about that? Yeah, I'm still talking about it. It doesn't go, for me, it doesn't go away. I know it's gone away for the perpetrator or for any perpetrator, but for me, it greets me every morning when I wake up. It's there waiting for me. It never goes away. It doesn't go away when I'm taking 25 pills every day. It's always there. It's always there. So that's the interesting part, that people think when it's over, it's over. But for victims and survivors of sexual assault, when it's over, it's just beginning. The actual acts of the sexual assault, you can disassociate from, so that you're not even there. You can be up in the corner. You can kind of remove yourself from your body. But in the afterfall, when it's over, you can't. No matter where you go, there you are. It follows you everywhere, in everything that you do, in relationships, in the way you raised your children, in everything. Loud noises startle me, and I'm instantly unsafe, because there were a lot of loud noises at my house. There were a lot of things thrown, and anger, and all of that. And to this day, like Gary was working, and he's done a little remodel in our kitchen, and he needed to use a saw, and every time he'd say, Sherrie, I'm going to turn the saw on. Because without that warning, I'm going to jump out of my skin. So, I'm 64 years old, and he tells me before he turns the saw on, because otherwise I'm going to lose my mind, because I don't know what's going to happen. So we revert back, and there's hope. I think you asked me what I've learned. I've learned that there's hope. Always. Always. And, if you're going to do something like hurt yourself, or if you're a cutter, or you're going to kill yourself, and you think there's absolutely no way out, there is a way out. There is. And whatever you're going to do, don't do it today. Just hold on and wait till the sun rises in the morning, and be grounded. And there are still days I have to ground myself. I have to take my shoes off and go outside and put my feet in the grass and kind of think, okay, Sherrie, this is okay. You've got this. Everything's going to be good. Don't question. I blame myself for not being the best mom I could have been. Now, my kids and I are close. I have a son and 2 daughters, and they deserved so much more. I can't go back and fix that, because I was so broken, and my mental illness was rampant. I had to stop driving my car for a while because I couldn't remember where the brakes were. Just crazy things. But there's always hope. That's what I want people to know. Always.
That's wonderful. Sherrie Allsup, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I hope you continue to do good work for people, and
thank you.
Teach people what they can do to avoid these kind of fates.
Thank you so much.
All right, Ellen. Thank you.
When I was designing the first Soft White Underbelly book, I realized that there were so many great portraits that weren't going to make it into that book. They just wouldn't fit. And once I saw how well that first book sold, I knew I'd have to design a second book. This second book is finally ready to ship. Like the first one, this book has a collection of some of the best portraits from Soft White Underbelly, accompanied by a quote from that person's interview. This book features another group of Rebecca portraits, as well as a collection of color images of the Whitaker family, and plenty of others. You can order yours for $125 or $150 for a signed copy at softwhiteunderbelly.org. Again, like the first book, once this book is sold out, I will not be printing more of them. The portraits are what Soft White Underbelly is all about, and these two books contain the best of all that work. Thank you for watching.